Well, how are we all doing, guys? Welcome to our review of Game Week 6, our preview of Game Week 7 for the Fantasy Premier League. Game Week 6, let's just say, it didn't go well for me. I got 25 points. Honestly, as weekends go, it couldn't have got any worse. How bad could it have got? Well, my top player performer that was on the pitch was Keller with 8 points. My top performer in total was Xhaka with 9. And look at those two players with 0 points. Two players with 0 points. Two players with 1 point. Four players with 2 points. Honestly, it was pathetic. Fantasy Premier League can sometimes make you look like a genius and sometimes make you look like a moron. So we're not even going to consider that, and nor are we going to really consider too much the results. I mean, it got worse for me that Liverpool lost as well. If you want me to start doing reviews of Liverpool performances, and maybe this becomes a Liverpool fan channel, I don't know. Pop a like if you would be up for that, or a comment. But yeah, we're not really going to consider that. Just a quick little rundown in terms of the matches over the weekend. It started off well, like I say, with Kelleher as the goalkeeper, getting points to me. So Brentford beating Man United. Man United back to their struggles again, although have they really been out of it? Chelsea against Brighton. Chelsea losing to Brighton. That is something starting to go wrong at Chelsea too. Crystal Palace, Liverpool. Surprise for Liverpool, but maybe especially for Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace again performing well. So many games unbeaten. Really, probably the best performing team like the past 10, 15 games. Leeds against Bournemouth. Really well performed again from Leeds. Good scoring. Bournemouth, I thought their defence was a bit poor. But they got those goals back. Man City versus Burnley, it says 5-1, but I've got to be honest, for about 60, 70 minutes, it was like 2-1 to Man City. Burnley performed well. So it's not a scoreline that flatters Man City, but it's a scoreline that doesn't really do much justice for Burnley. Nottingham Forest versus Sunderland. Sunderland again doing fantastically well. And Nottingham Forest, is this Angeball 2.0? Are we going to be getting a similar sort of season that we did from Spurs last season? Speaking of Spurs, getting a last minute draw against Wolves. I don't think it says too much bad about Spurs, although that is something to be worried about. But maybe some encouraging signs for Wolves. Maybe we can start to look at them in a bit more of a positive light. Aston Villa getting their win against Fulham, fantastic. I'd perhaps wait until the next game this weekend before really jumping on the bandwagon for Aston Villa, but it's always good to get some signs of life. The European match they got before, they won that match, so really good to see. Newcastle versus Arsenal. Last minute win for Arsenal. Newcastle did all right. But yeah, Arsenal again, plodding along, doing what they can. And Everton versus West Ham. Signs of life under Nuno. West Ham, can we start to put a little bit of faith in them? Is there a player or two that you could keep an eye out for from that? We'll talk about that as well. So that is how the weekend went. Rubbish. So let's have a look at what's been going on since then, because it is really interesting that again we've got midweek games. Again, we've got all this going on that adds a little bit of flavour to this week. And we start off again, as we always do, from the Tuesday, where we had some shocks. So Liverpool lost 1-0 to Galatasaray. So Galatasaray being one of the top teams in Turkey, which I think is something like the 5th or 6th. Well, it's in the top 10 leagues, but not as strong as the English league. So them getting a win was brilliant for them, but terrible for Liverpool and starting to get a little bit disjointed. So something to be a bit concerned about. Tottenham Hotspur got a last-minute equaliser against Bodo Glimt. It was away, so if anyone knows the area of Bodo Glimt in Norway, very cold area, and it's actually the amount of home wins that Bodo Glimt has got against big um, names in the European stage. I don't think there's too much to take from, but really, really, at least got that comeback. Chelsea versus Benfica, getting that win. Maybe a little bit of stability after the chaos they've had over the past couple of weeks. So positive signs of life. And then we come up to yesterday as we're recording. So Newcastle United getting a win against Union Saint-Gilloise in the Belgian league. Really good for them. Such positive signs of life. And again, we can start talking about Newcastle in that light. Manchester City getting a draw against Monaco. That was unexpected. So, is it a scoreline that flattered Man City? Could be interesting. One to keep an eye on in terms of that. Is Man City going to be as good as last weekend showed? And lastly, Arsenal against Olympiacos. Straightforward win for Arsenal. Again, getting through with it, pushing on. And then lastly, we talk about the matches, as like I say, as we're speaking today. So Crystal Palace, they did play, they did win, which was in the Conference League. They beat Dynamo Kyiv 2-0. There's a lot to really take from, not really a lot to take from that. Dynamo Kyiv, Ukrainian team, have really struggled because, as you can imagine, even though it's showing that they're playing at home, they didn't really play at home. They haven't had the chance to play at home, so it's difficult times for Crystal Palace. So for Dynamo Kyiv, so getting the win on the bat, that's fine. The matches have only just kicked off elsewhere, but right now we've got Aston Villa playing against Feyenoord. Feyenoord being a decent team in the the Dutch league. Could be interesting. I would suspect maybe there'll be a draw, potentially a narrow win for Aston Villa. It's been the European competitions where they've been able to sort of kickstart their campaign, so positive signs potentially for that. And Nottingham Forest playing against Midtjylland. I believe that's in the Danish league. Again, could be an interesting one, but not too much. The main thing is, again, these clubs are getting energy out. So again, there could be some tired legs that could have some impact on this weekend's fixtures. Now, before we go into this weekend's fixtures, I want to talk about. Actually, no, we will talk about this weekend's fixtures, and I'll mention the changes that I have made to my fantasy Premier League team because they're big ones. They're big ones. So let's jump into it. Let's get into. I believe we can do it from the transfers. Yes, we can. Okay, fantastic. So we have as our weekend fixtures, we start off with a Friday evening. So tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. UK time, Bournemouth are playing against Fulham. So Bournemouth doing well under Iraola, Fulham doing decently under Marco Silva. Could be a punchy game, this one. If I was to pick players, although I've got a Bournemouth defender in there, but this could be all about midfielders and forwards. If I was picking for Bournemouth, I would definitely pick Semenyo to get 1 or 2 goals. For Fulham, same story as last weekend. It's the Harry Wilsons, it's the Alex Iwobis, it's those players that are worth keeping an eye out for that will get those assists, those goals for Fulham away at Bournemouth. Then we come to the lunchtime game between Leeds and Spurs. Now, Spurs and Leeds are almost like the sort of the bright sparks of the season. Now, you would expect Spurs to get a win. Of course you would. Leeds have only just come up into the Premier League, but again, I think this will be quite a slugfest. Now, I could put a bit more faith in one or two Spurs defenders, which is fair enough. Leeds attackers and Dominic Calvert-Lewin again is showing his class. We knew that there could be something good about Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting a little bit of a fresh start, and seeing him getting it at Leeds is brilliant. Now, the downside of the live watch along on Saturday is that we've only got 2 games that we're going to be reporting on. The upside is we've got skin in the game for both of them. We've got Arsenal players, we've got Sunderland players. We're going to be weirdly cheering Arsenal on, considering I'm a Liverpool fan, but also we will be cheering Sunderland players on, wanting them to get a win at Old Trafford and hoping for the best for them. So Arsenal versus West Ham, expecting Arsenal to get the win. As much as West Ham under Nuno will have a bit of a renaissance, Arsenal are still one of the best teams, right? Man United versus Sunderland. Man United spluttering, absolutely spluttering, and this it is going to be one of those games where heart, desire, and a bit of brutality is going to win this, and that's why I expect Sunderland to get points here. So get your Arsenal midfielders and attackers, get your your Sunderland players, maybe Bruno for Man United, but Bruno Fernandes, but I'm not entirely sure. By the way, speaking about the West Ham Renaissance, if there was to be a Renaissance, the very first player everyone should go for is Jared Bowen. That guy is West Ham through and through, and it's always the case where once West Ham get going, he's normally the first one to get the rewards of that. I would also say that for Sunderland, in terms of players, I'd maybe get the Sunderland goalkeeper. Absolutely fantastic in the amount of saves he got into the Team of the Week briefs. Absolutely brilliant for that. And yeah, I'd shy away from Man United, but maybe you could get away with Bruno Fernandes. Then we come on to Chelsea versus Liverpool. The two teams that started decently and now are struggling. So, which ones would you pick? Well, as a fan, of course I'm going to go for Liverpool. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, though? Because if you actually look at like Chelsea's problems, it's pretty much been defensively. They can't seem to get connections and everything like that. For Liverpool, it's the attack. So we're going to go for Liverpool defenders and Chelsea attackers? Well, no. What Chelsea has shown so far is that they do so well for a time, and then it's around. There's a time when Chelsea collapse. If there's a time for Liverpool's attackers to start doing good, now is that time. Now, as a result, as you can imagine, I will have taken Chelsea players out, but Liverpool players, again, this is where it actually, even myself, I cannot fully predict or work out. Do you pick Vias? Do you pick Isak? Do you pick Ekitike? Do you pick Salah? Do you pick Gakpo? I genuinely don't know. This is a team that seem to be so disjointed that when they do restart, I don't know where the goals are going to come from. It's going to come from somewhere, but I don't know from where. So really, really fascinating one. Gravenberch maybe, but is like the solid option. But apart from that, I genuinely do not know. What is of note is the fact that Alisson did get injured during the week. I think Ekitike might have got injured as well. But Alisson for sure is not playing this weekend. So if you do have him in your team, you might have to look at taking him out. As for Chelsea players, they've got another player that is suspended in Chalobah. It took me a while to figure that one out. Maybe having someone like João Pedro as someone that's going to steal goals If they are going to get goals, at least I know where that's going to come from. Then we come to Sunday. Aston Villa versus Burnley. The team that's been doing decently, but in the last game had a rubbish match in Burnley, playing against a team that's been doing rubbish most of the time, but now doing decently in the past match. Could be an interesting one. I potentially, if I was picking for Burnley, I'd maybe go for Jadon Anthony. And for Aston Villa, maybe we can start bringing players in. Morgan Rogers, Harvey Elliott, Ollie Watkins, players like that. Maybe even Daniel Marlon as well. That will get those goals, those assists that are so desperately needed. Jadon Sancho, I'm still not quite sure about. Then we have Everton versus Crystal Palace. The stats seem to suggest that Crystal Palace will get this one easily, considering their winning and unbeaten streaks, and I tend to agree. Jack Grealish it's not Dewsbury Hall because I think he's suspended. But Jack Grealish for definite is one of the options to pick for Everton, if at all. But I'd be going for Crystal Palace players. Ismail Assam, Jean-Philippe Mateta, players like that. In fact, I think if you wanted to have a little bit of a punt on someone, Mateta has gone down in price a little bit, which is interesting. Maybe, just maybe. And we come to Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. So this feels like a done deal, doesn't it? This time last season, if you were to say who are you going to pick versus a team led by Ange and another team, you pretty much go for that, right? Ange has struggled, and he's continuing to struggle for Nottingham Forest. And let's face it, Newcastle are starting to come good. I'd perhaps go for Anthony Gordon and Voltemada. I'm going to be saying that name as much. Honestly, you're going to think I'm German myself where I start saying Voltemada. But those sort of players, definitely keep an eye out for. Voltemada got goals in the last game, and I'm pretty sure he got goals in the game against Arsenal too. So really starting to get into form and seems to be loving it at St James's Park. So definitely Voltemada, keep an eye on. Have him in your team. This is probably now the time to bring him in. Wolves versus Brighton. Brighton getting the win last time out. Players like Danny Welbeck for Brighton, fantastically, would be brilliant for that. Mitoma, players like that. Wolves, you still got that Ketchy guy or whatever his name was, and then Brentford versus Man City. I don't think is as much of a done deal as we might expect based on the last match. Man City did beat Burnley 5-1, but I kind of did flat them, and they drew 2-2 away. And I would say that Brentford would be as much of a challenge as Monaco are. Do I think there's going to be goals in it? Absolutely. And I think this is going to be... I would find it hard to believe that either team will get a clean sheet, but I do think like sort of a 2-2. What I will say is with the amount of shots that Man City might have, keeping trusting Callagher with the saves could still be an option. So those are the those are the players. So now let's look at the transfers that I've made based on that. And here we go. So what are the changes that I have made? Well, Ronaldo has stayed in. The players I brought in are Arsenal players, as you can see. So I have brought in Gabriel in place of Cucurella. Cucurella seems to be struggling. I'm cashing in basically before he starts dropping any further in price. But I brought in Saka as well. In place of who? In place of Salah. That seems like a bizarre thing to do. Over the past few seasons, Salah has been amazing. Always seems to get a goal. Always seems to get an assist. But I'm not so sure about this season. One thing that has been clear to me from this season is that Salah's not the focal point anymore. He's one of the players it goes through, but he's not the main one. So to have him as the main guy is bold, right? As a result, I am keeping Wirtz in because Wirtz is going to get better. So Saka is coming in place of Salah. Is it a bold move? Yes. It's always a bold move taking Salah out. And as you can see from my budget, I've got some cash to play around with. And now this is where it gets really interesting. Because of the cash I've got to play around with, I can now do week-on-week transfers. Because I can start taking a player out and bringing in because I've got the budget to play around with. When you are particularly at the start and you like got 0.1 million extra or something like that, you probably be best doing 2 transfers so you can make major changes. Well, thankfully, I can make those major changes without worrying about budgets. Now, as for the team that I'll be picking, and we have less time to pick that team, fascinating, intriguing, interesting. The players that I'm putting in the most amount of faith for is the players, as you can see, in the Spurs players and the Arsenal players. I am keeping those guys in. Past that, though, this is where it gets challenging. I'm already looking at this and can see 1 or 2 changes that I would make. First change I'd probably make is Wirtz is coming on for Gusto. We're going to bring this back to a 3-4-3. Now, 50-50 on the goalkeepers. I'm going to keep my trust in Keller, I think, potentially, for that. Now, the player that is most likely for me to come on, that if other players don't play, would be Xhaka. Now, this is where my loyalty will be tested. Because the 50-50 decision I have right now, and I will continue to have, is whether I pick João Pedro or whether I pick Xhaka. Now, I hope it kind of gets taken out of my hands and both of them play, but I think based on right now, I'm going Xhaka. As for my captain, that's easier. It's going to be Saka. Saka's going to be the one that gets the double points for me, I think. In terms of vice captain, I'm probably going to give that to Kudus. So that is how the team is going to look. So I am basically hoping that Bournemouth get a clean sheet against Fulham. I'm going to be hoping that Arsenal get a clean sheet against West Ham. More likely that's going to happen. Arsenal getting some good goals. Tottenham getting some good goals. Sunderland getting some good goals. And that Wirtz finally comes good. But those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. And like I say, we'll be doing the watch along of the 2 Saturday afternoon matches, hoping that I might start getting some good stuff out of it. I mean, we've got 5 players, even though there's only 2 matches, we've got 5 players banking on those 2 matches. So feel free to join in at twitch.tv/the ND Ninja if you want to watch along on that. And yeah, feel free to put up a like, comment down below any thoughts that you might have. And until the weekend or next week, the best of luck for your teams. And best of luck for my team. I need it. And until the next time we see each other, take care.